Ex-girlfriend tried to baby trap me with someone else's child. The DNA test at the baby shower was quite revealing. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags from the beginning. My ex and I had been together for 3 years, and those last few months before we broke up were absolutely toxic. She was controlling, manipulative, and had this weird obsession with getting married and having kids that honestly scared me. I wasn't ready for that level of commitment, especially not with someone who would throw tantrums when I didn't respond to her texts within 5 minutes. The breakup was messy. She kept calling me, showing up at my apartment, and basically refused to accept that we were done. I had to block her on everything just to get some peace. That was in February, and I thought I was finally free from all the drama. Boy, was I wrong. Fast forward to September, and I'm at the grocery store minding my own business when I run into her sister. Now her sister was always cool with me, even after the breakup, so we started chatting. That's when she drops this bombshell on me: my ex is pregnant and claiming I'm the father. My heart literally stopped. I did the math in my head, and if she was 7 months pregnant like her sister said, that would put conception right around the time we broke up. I went home that night and couldn't sleep. My mind was racing with all the possibilities. Had we been careful? Yeah, pretty much always. But accidents happen, right? The thought of being tied to my ex for the rest of my life through a child was terrifying. I spent the next few days in a complete panic, not knowing what to do. Then my phone starts buzzing. She had somehow gotten my new number and was texting me nonstop about how we needed to talk about our baby. The messages were wild. She was talking about how this was meant to be, how we were going to be a family, how she knew I'd come around once I saw the ultrasound pictures. It was the same manipulative behavior that drove me away in the first place. I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop, neutral territory. When I saw her, she was definitely pregnant, no question about it. She had this glow about her and was wearing this flowy dress that showed off her bump. For a split second, I actually felt something. Maybe it was paternal instinct kicking in. But then she started talking, and all those old feelings of frustration came flooding back. She was going on and on about how she'd been waiting for me to reach out, how she knew I'd want to be involved, how we could make this work. I told her straight up that I needed a paternity test before we discussed anything else. The look on her face was priceless, pure rage mixed with panic. She started yelling about how I was calling her a liar, how could I not trust her, all that drama. After a lot of back and forth, she finally agreed to the test, but only after the baby was born. She claimed it would be dangerous to do it while she was pregnant, which I later found out was complete nonsense. But I was young and didn't know better, so I agreed to wait. Those next 2 months were absolute hell. She would text me constantly with updates, ultrasound photos, and her plans for our future together. I felt trapped. During this time, I started noticing things that didn't add up. She was being secretive about her doctor visits, wouldn't let me come to any appointments, and when I asked about the father's name on medical forms, she got really defensive. My gut was telling me something was off, but I couldn't prove anything. The baby was born in November, and I got the call at 3 a.m. She was crying on the phone, saying our son was here and he was perfect. Part of me was excited. If this was really my kid, I wanted to be a good father. But another part of me was still suspicious. I went to the hospital the next day and saw the baby for the first time. He was tiny and wrinkled like all newborns, and honestly, I couldn't see any resemblance to anyone. Over the next few weeks, she kept pushing for us to get back together. She'd send me pictures of the baby every day, talking about how he had my eyes or my nose. Looking back, I think she was trying to convince herself as much as me. She was planning this elaborate baby shower for when the baby was 6 weeks old, inviting all our mutual friends and family members. She kept saying how it would be perfect, how everyone would see what a beautiful family we made. I kept asking about the paternity test, and she kept making excuses. First it was too expensive, then it was too complicated, then she said we should wait until the baby was older. Every excuse made me more suspicious. I finally told her that if she wanted me involved in any way, the test had to happen before the baby shower. She wasn't happy about it, but she agreed. Here's where things get really interesting. I decided to get the test done myself instead of trusting her to handle it. I went to a lab and arranged for a home collection kit. When I told her about it, she freaked out and said she'd already ordered one from a different company. She claimed it would be more accurate and cheaper. Red flags were going off in my head, but I went along with it to keep the peace. The day before the baby shower, she calls me all excited, saying the results came back and I was definitely the father. She was going on and on about how she knew it all along, how we were meant to be together, how perfect everything was going to be. Something in her voice just didn't sound right. She was trying too hard to sound happy and confident. I asked her to send me a copy of the results, and she said she'd bring them to the baby shower so everyone could see. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. Who brings paternity test results to a baby shower? It was such a weird thing to do, and it made me even more suspicious. The baby shower was at her mom's house, and pretty much everyone we knew was there. Our old friends from college, family members, coworkers, it was like a reunion. She was playing the part of the happy new mom perfectly, showing off the baby and talking about how wonderful everything was. But I could see through it. She was nervous and kept looking at me like she was waiting for something. About halfway through the party, she stands up and makes this announcement. She says she has something special to share with everyone, something that's going to make this day even more perfect. My stomach drops because I know what's coming. She starts talking about how there were some questions about the baby's father, but now we have proof that we're a real family. She pulls out this envelope and starts reading from what she claims is the paternity test results. According to her, I'm 99.9% likely to be the father. Everyone starts clapping and congratulating us, and she's beaming like she just won the lottery. But something about the paper looked off to me. The formatting was weird, and some of the terminology didn't match what I'd seen online when I was researching paternity tests. I asked to see the paper, and she hesitated before handing it over. That's when I noticed the lab name was wrong. It was missing a letter. Plus, the dates didn't match up with when she claimed to have taken the test. I realized she had faked the whole thing. My blood was boiling, but I didn't want to cause a scene in front of everyone. After the party, I confronted her privately. I told her I knew the results were fake and demanded to know what was really going on. She broke down crying and admitted that she hadn't actually taken the test yet. She claimed she was scared of what the results might say, but she was sure I was the father and just wanted to make everyone happy. That's when I dropped my own bombshell. I told her I had taken my own paternity test 3 days earlier and had the results in my car. Her face went completely white. I went out to my car and grabbed the envelope that had been sitting there, waiting for the right moment. My hands were shaking as I opened it, even though I was pretty sure I knew what it would say. The results were clear. I was not the father. 0% chance. I showed her the paper and she just stared at it in shock. Then she started crying and saying it had to be wrong, that there was some mistake. But we both knew the truth. She had been trying to pin someone else's baby on me. Over the next few hours, the real story came out. She had been seeing someone else during the last month of our relationship, a guy she worked with who was married. When she found out she was pregnant, she knew he would never leave his wife, so she decided to make me think it was mine. She had been planning this whole thing from the beginning, hoping that once I saw the baby and got attached, I wouldn't question the paternity. The crazy part was that she had been so convinced her plan would work that she never even considered what would happen if I actually got a real test done. She thought she could just fake the results and everything would be fine. When I asked her about the real father, she admitted that she had never even told him about the baby. He had no idea he had a son. I was angry, hurt, and honestly pretty impressed by how elaborate her scheme had been. She had spent months building this fantasy where we were going to be a happy family, and she almost pulled it off. If I hadn't been suspicious enough to get my own test done, I might have spent years raising someone else's child thinking it was mine. The aftermath was brutal. I had to call my family and friends who had been at the baby shower and explain what had happened. Most people were shocked and supportive, but a few thought I was being cruel for exposing her lie so publicly. Her family was embarrassed and angry, and her mom actually called me to apologize for her daughter's behavior. My ex completely fell apart. She had burned bridges with me, humiliated herself in front of everyone she knew, and still had to figure out how to be a single mom. I almost felt sorry for her, but then I remembered all the stress and anxiety she had put me through for months. She had been willing to completely destroy my life to avoid dealing with her own problems. The real father situation was messy too. She eventually had to tell him about the baby, and it caused huge problems in his marriage. His wife found out about the affair and filed for divorce. He wanted to be involved in the baby's life, but the whole situation was so toxic that it was complicated for everyone involved. Looking back, I learned so much about myself and what I'm willing to tolerate in a relationship. The red flags were there from the beginning: the controlling behavior, the manipulation, the inability to accept no for an answer. I ignored them because I thought I could change her or that things would get better. But people don't change unless they want to, and she clearly didn't want to. The whole experience also taught me to trust my instincts. Deep down, I knew something wasn't right about her pregnancy claims. The timeline felt off, her behavior was suspicious, and she kept avoiding the paternity test. But I second-guessed myself because I wanted to do the right thing if the baby was really mine. I'm grateful that I got the test done when I did. If I had waited any longer, I might have gotten more attached to the baby and made the whole situation even more complicated. It's hard enough to walk away from a child you think might be yours, but it would have been impossible to walk away from one I had been caring for and bonding with for months. The baby is almost 2 now, and from what I hear through mutual friends, he's doing well. His real father eventually stepped up and is involved in his life, despite all the drama with his divorce. My ex moved back in with her parents and is working part-time while they help with childcare. I hope she learned something from this whole mess and gets the help she needs to be a better person. As for me, I'm in a much better place now. I'm dating someone new who is honest, trustworthy, and respects boundaries. We've talked about the whole situation, and she's been really supportive and understanding. It's nice to be with someone who doesn't try to manipulate or control me, who actually communicates instead of playing games. I still think about what would have happened if I had just accepted her fake test results. I would be paying child support for a kid who wasn't mine, probably trying to maintain some kind of relationship with my ex for the sake of the child, and missing out on the chance to find someone who actually cares about me. The whole thing could have ruined my life, and she was perfectly willing to let that happen to avoid dealing with her own mistakes. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how everything went down, especially exposing her lie at the baby shower. But honestly, I don't regret it at all. She made her choices and I made mine. I could have handled it more privately, but she was the one who decided to make fake paternity test results public. I was just correcting the record with real information. The experience definitely made me more cautious about relationships, but not in a cynical way. I just pay more attention to red flags now and trust my gut when something feels wrong. I'm also more direct about my boundaries and expectations. If someone can't respect those, they're not the right person for me. I've also become more selective about who I get involved with. I take time to really get to know someone before getting serious, and I pay attention to how they handle conflict and stress. My ex's true colors came out when she was under pressure, and that taught me a lot about the importance of character. The whole situation was traumatic at the time, but looking back, I'm almost grateful it happened. It taught me so much about myself and what I want in a partner. It also showed me how important it is to stand up for yourself and not let people take advantage of you, even when it's difficult or uncomfortable. If I could go back and do anything differently, I probably would have gotten the paternity test done sooner. I wasted months worrying and stressing about something that wasn't even real. But I also understand why I hesitated. The whole situation was so surreal and overwhelming that it was hard to think clearly. The experience also made me more empathetic toward other people who have been in similar situations. There are a lot of guys out there who have been tricked into thinking they're fathers when they're not, and it's a devastating experience. The betrayal of trust is almost worse than the practical consequences. I'm sharing this story because I think it's important for people to know that this kind of thing really happens. It's not just something you see in movies or TV shows. Real people do this to each other, and the consequences are serious. If you're ever in a situation where something doesn't feel right, trust your instincts and get the facts. Don't let someone else's lies control your life. The truth always comes out eventually, and it's better to deal with it sooner rather than later. I'm just glad I figured it out when I did, before I got in too deep. Now I can move forward with my life knowing that I dodged a major bullet, and hopefully my ex learned something from this experience too.